pleasant day to each and everyone. My topic is all about Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and Chapter 4. So in Chapter 2, it talks about the coverage and liability. So first, I will discuss the Chapter 2. So when we say a coverage and liability in labor laws, so it refers not to the extent to which employers are responsible for providing their various benefits and also a protections to their employees. So in Article 174 compulsory coverage, so coverage in the state insurance fund shall be compulsory upon all employers and their employees not over 60 years of age. So provided that employee who is administered 60 years of age and paying for the retirement or life insurance benefit administered by the system shall be subject to compulsory coverage. So this law na essentially mandates that lahat ng employers and employees na under 60 years old are required sila na i-covered by the state insurance fund. So, in the essence, it ensures a broader coverage for both employers and also the employees with certain provisions for older employees already enrolled in specific benefits. Next is Article 175, Foreign Employment. So the Commission shall ensure adequate coverage of Filipino employees employed abroad, subject to regulations as it may prescribe. So here, these articles know that the Commission is responsible for ensuring to sa mga Filipino employees na nag-work sa abroad na dapat may sufficient coverage under the state insurance fund. So, the Commission can establish regulations to govern this coverage. Like, ensure nila ang Filipino workers abroad are adequately protected by the insurance system. Next is Article 176, Effective Date of Coverage. So, compulsory coverage of the employer during the effectivity of this title shall take effect on the first day of his operation, and that of the employee on the date of his employment. So this article specifies that it is really compulsory coverage for the employers begin on this first day of their operation. So meaning, as soon as they start their business or activities, they are obligated to provide coverage under the state insurance fund. So for the employees, it is also compulsory coverage to start on the date they are employed by the employer. Next is Article 177, Registration. So each employer and his employees shall register with the system in accordance with its regulations. So here in Article 177, it mandates both employers and ang kanilang employees must dapat sila makaregister with the system. So, this registration process ensures that yung both parties are officially recognized and syempre accounted din for under the insurance system. Next is Article 178. So, the state insurance fund shall be liable for compensation to the employee or his dependents, except when the disability or death occasioned by the employee's intoxication, willful intention to injure or himself or another, notorious negligence, or otherwise provided under the title. So here in limitation of liability, like nililimit nila ang liability when it comes to compensation, like sa mga disability people or sa death, when talk about death. Next is Article 179, Extent of Liability. So unless otherwise provided, the liability of the state insurance fund under this title shall be exclusive and in place of all other liabilities of the employer to the employee, his dependents, or anyone otherwise entitled to receive damages on behalf of the employee or his dependents. So this article established that unless stated otherwise. So the liability of the state insurance fund outline and this title is exclusive and replaces any other liabilities sa employer towards to the employee. So, in the essence, no, this means that lahat ng compensation nila is provided by the state insurance fund. Like, mga dependents sa isang employee, like sa work-related injuries or death covered under this title. So, therefore, no, any other legal claims or liabilities against the employer related to the same like incident would be superseded by the compensation like pinoprovide na ng state insurance fund. Next is Article 180, liability of third parties. So, letter A, when the disability or death is caused by circumstances creating a legal liability against a third party, the disabled employee or the dependents, in the case of this death, shall be paid by the system under this title. So in case benefit is paid under this title, the system shall be subrogated to the rights of disabled employee or dependents in case of his death in accordance with the general law. So if if ang disability or death is caused by such circumstances, so the disabled employee or their dependents, in the case of especially death, so it will be compensated by the state insurance fund under his title. So if yung benefits are paid out, so the state insurance fund then nakagain sila ng right to pursue illegal actions against the third party responsible. Next is where the system recovers from such third party damages in exist of those paid or allowed under this title such exist shall be delivered to the disabled employee or other person entitled thereafter deducting the cost of proceedings and expenses of the system. So if the state insurance is fund recovers on damages from the third party in excess of what was paid or allowed under this title, so the excess amount is ma-return to the disabled employee or other entitled individuals after nila dinededuct yung mga cost of legal proceedings and expenses incurred by the state insurance fund. In the simpler terms, if someone else is legally responsible for the disability or death, then the state of insurance fund initially provide din sila agad ng compensation. Next is Article 181 or deprivation of benefits. So except as otherwise provided under this title, no contract, regulation, or device whatsoever shall operate to deprive the employee or his dependents of any part of the income, benefits, and medical or related services granted under this title. So, this article, it ensure na lahat ng employers and their dependents are not deprived of any part of the income or benefits and also their medical services provided under this title. So, this means that no contact or any regulations or arrangement can be used to deny or diminish to the benefits of sa isang employees and their dependents to receive under the law. So, in the essence, it prevents the employers or any other party from circumventing or reducing their benefits mandated by this title through agreements or practices. Next is, we'll move on chapter 3, which is administration. So, Article 181 Employees Compensation Commission. So, to initiate, rationalize, and coordinate the policies of Employees Compensation Program, the Employees Compensation Commission is hereby created to be composed of 5 ex-officio members, namely the Secretary of Labor and Employment Chairman, the GSIS General Manager, the SSS Administrator, the Chairman of the Philippine Medical Care Commission, and the Executive or Director of ACC Secretariat, and 2 appointive members, one of whom shall represent the employees and the other. So the employers to be appointed by the President of the Philippines for a term of 6 years. So, Here na the Employees Compensation Commission or ECC is nag-establish sila to coordinate the policies of the Employees Compensation Program. So, nag-consist sila ng 5 ex-official members like the Secretary of Labor Employment, General Managers of GSIS, and also the SSS, the Chairman of the Philippine Medical Care, and also the Executive Director of SSC Secretariat. So additionally, there are 2 appointed members, one are representing from employees and other representing employers. Next is the Vice Chairman of the Commission shall be alternated each year between the GSIS General Manager and the SSS Administrator. The presence of 4 members shall constitute to a quorum. So the Vice Chairman of the Commission alternates yearly between the General Managers of GSIS and SSS. So it is a quorum na. A quorum is formed with the presence of 4 members. Next is the general conduct of operations and management functions of the GSIS or SSS under this title shall be vested in its respective chief executive officers, who shall immediately responsible for carrying out the policies of the Commission. So here now it talks about the general operations and a management function of GSIS or SSS under this title are really managed by their respective chief executives and officers. So they are really responsible for implementing those policies and commissions. Next is the Commission shall have the status and category a government corporation and it hereby deemed attached to the Department of Labor and Employment for policy coordination and guidance. So here the Commission is categorized as a government corporation and is attached to the Department of Labor and Employment for policy and coordination and guidance. So this article nag-establish sila to structure composition and also responsibilities for the employees' compensation. Next is Article 183, Powers and Duties. So the Commission shall have the following powers and duties. So A, to assess and fix a rate of contribution from all employers. So all this now it talks about the Commission is really empowered to assess and determine the rate of their contribution that lahat ng employers must pay into the state insurance fund. Next is to determine the rate of contribution payable by an employer whose records show a high frequency of work accidents or occupational disease due to failure by the said employer to observe adequate safety measures. So it can also adjust the contribution rate for those employers who have their high frequency of work accident or also the occupational disease due to their failure to implement adequate safety measures. C, to approve rules and regulations governing the processing of claims and the settlement of disputes arising therefrom as prescribed by the system. So the Commission is responsible for syempre for approving the rules and regulations to regulation governing to the processing of their claims and resolving disputes related to those claims as prescribed by the system. Next is to initiate policies and programs towards adequate occupational health and safety and accident prevention in the working environment, rehabilitation other than those provided for under Article 190 hereof, and other related programs and activities, and to appropriate funds. So it talks about the authority to initiate some policies and also the programs na gusto nila i-promote for occupational health and safety. So accident prevention in the workplace, rehabilitation, and related activities. So it can also allocate funds for those purposes. Next, to make the necessary actuarial studies and calculations concerning the grant of constant health and income benefits for permanent disability or death, and the rationalization of benefits for permanent disability and death under the title with benefits payable by the system for similar contingencies. So here now it talks about commission is really tasked with conducting actuarial studies and calculations to ensure that the adequacy and rationalization of benefits is really permanent in especially in disability or death. So in comparison now with benefits is really provided by system for similar situations. Next is to appoint the personnel of its staff subject to civil service law and rules but exempt from WAPCO law and regulations. So here no it has may power talaga yung mag-appoint its staff. So subject to civil service law and rules but exempt from the specific regulations. Next is to adopt annually a budget of expenditures of commissions and its staff chargeable against state insurance fund. So provided that SSS and GSIS shall advance on quarterly basis the remittances of allotment of loading fund for the commission's operational expenses based on its annual budget as duly approved by the Department Budget of Management. So here it talks about the commission are responsible for annually adopting a budget for its expenditures and stuff, so funded by the insurance fund with advances from SSS and also the GSIS. Next is to have the power to administer oath, affirmation, and issue subpoena and subpoena duces tecum in connection with any question or issue arising from appealed cases under this title. So here it can administer no oath, issues subpoenas, and compel the production of documents related to mga cases under this title. Next is to sue and be sued in the court. So the commission now has the capacity to para mag-initiate sila to legal actions and be party to lawsuits in courts. Next is to acquire property, real or personal, which may be necessary or expedient for the attainment of purposes of this title. So it can acquire no property but real and personal. So it is necessary for fulfilling the objectives of this title. Next is to enter into agreements or contracts for such services and as may be needed for the proper, efficient, and stable administration of the program. So the commission is authorized now to enter into syempre agreements or contracts for their services required from the proper administration of the employees' compensation program. Next is Article 184, Management of Funds. All revenues collected by the system under this title shall be deposited, invested, and administered. So, here in Article 184 na, so this article na nag-state siya na all revenues collected by the system. So, it refers na the employees' compensation or commission. So under this title, no, dito na-relate yung employees' compensation. Dapat na minamanage in the same manner and under the same condition as fund collected by Social Security System and GSIS. So, it ensures no consistency and adherence to established financial practices and regulations. Next is Article 185, Investment of Funds. So, provision of laws. To the contrary, notwithstanding, all revenues are not needed to meet current operational expenses under this title shall be accumulated in the fund to be known as State Insurance Fund. So here in 185 despite sa lahat ng conflicting laws, so this article stipulates that any revenues are not immediately required for current operational expenses. So under this title must be saved in a fund called State Insurance Fund. So this fund is exclusive lang siya to reserve for paying benefits such as compensation. Doon na din papasok yung work-related injuries or deaths. Next is Article 186, Settlement of Claims. So the system shall have original and exclusive jurisdiction to settle any dispute arising from this title with respect to coverage, entitlement to benefits, collection and payment of contributions and penalties of the benefits. So this article now grants a system. So it refers also the Employees Compensation Commission. So it is a regional and exclusive jurisdiction over resolving any disputes related to this title. So yung dispute na yon is include na yung issues regarding coverage or entitlement benefits or mga collection and payment of contribution and also mga penalties. Next is Article 187, Review. Decisions, order, or resolutions of Commission may be reviewed on certiorari by the Supreme Court or question of law upon petition of an aggrieved party, when 10 days from notice thereof. So, here no, the decision, orders, or resolution made by the Commission can be reviewed Supreme Court in certiorari. So, an aggrieved party has the right petitions to the Supreme Court for review within 10 days from the date of receiving notice of the decision. So this means that if someone disagree with a decision made by the Commission and believes so there was an error interpreting the law, so they can appeal. And so doon na yun papasok na they can appeal the Supreme Court for further review and possible reversal of decision. Next is Article 188, Enforcement of Decision. So any decision, order, resolution of the Commission shall become final and executory if no appeal is taken therefrom within 10 days. So within 10 days. So if no appeal is made, so if walang appeal na nagagawa within 10 days, so wala silang na-receive na notice from decision, so it becomes a final. So doon na yun, it becomes a final and enforceable. So those awards granted by the Commission appealed from the decision of the system must implemented within 15 days from the date of receiving the notice. So in all other cases, decision, order, and resolutions of the Commission which have become final and executory shall be enforced and executed in the same manner. So once the decision or orders or resolutions of the Commission become a final enforceable, so they are executed in the same manner as decision by the Court of First Instance. So the Commission now has the authority to issue orders of the city provincial sheriffs for enforcement purposes. So next, we're in Chapter 4, which is contributions. So we're in Article 189, Employers' Contributions. So A, under such regulations as the system may be prescribed beginning as the last day of the month when employee's compulsory coverage takes effect and every month thereafter during his employment. So here now the employers are really required to remit their kanilang contributions to the system. So it is also equivalent to 1% of their employees monthly credited. So those obligation nagsisimula siya in the last day of month when an employee's compulsory coverage start continuous monthly throughout their employment. Next is the rate of contribution shall be reviewed periodically and subject to the limitation herein provided. So may be revised as the experience and risk, cost of administration, and actual or anticipated as well as unexpected losses may acquire. So here the rate of contribution is subject to periodic review by the system. So it can be adjusted based on the factors such as the experience in the risk, cost, or administration and actual anticipated losses. Next is contribution under this title shall be paid in entirety by the employer, and any contract or device for deductions of any portion thereof from the wages and salaries of employees shall be null and void. So those employers are really responsible for paying their contributions in full. So any attempt to deduct any portion of these contributions from employees' wages and salaries is considered null and void. Next is when a covered employee dies, becomes disabled, or separated from employment, so his employer's obligation to pay the monthly contribution arising from that employment shall cease at the end of the month. So here no, when a covered employee experiences contingency like death, disability, or separation from employment, so yung employers na yun is obligation pa rin yan na mag-pay monthly into the employment cases. Like in the end of the month when the contingency occurs. And the last is Article 190, Government Guarantee. So the Republic of the Philippines guarantees not benefits prescribed under this title and accept general responsibility for the solvency of the state insurance fund. So in the case of any deficiency, the same shall be covered by supplemental appropriations from the national government. So this article no state that yung Republic of the Philippines is nag-guarantee sila into benefits outlined in this title. So which pertains no that employees compensation. So it also accepts overall responsibility for ensuring financial stability of the state insurance fund. So which no lahat ng fund is designated talaga to provide this benefit. So in simpler terms no, so the government assures that lahat ng benefits under this title will be fulfilled, and it pledges to step with additional funding if necessary covered by financial gaps in the state of insurance fund. So that would be my report in chapter 2, 3, and 4. Thank you so much.